Welcome. My name is Gerald Hughes. I'm the director and founder of the Neuro-Linguistic Learning Center here in El Dorado Hills, California. For the past 6 years, we've been helping children, teens, and adults in overcoming the effects of dyslexia, ADHD, autism, and a variety of other learning challenges. The program you're about to see, this workshop, was especially prepared. It's been taken from our comprehensive program, and we've decided to offer this free to families of children who are struggling, and particularly struggling with reading. We've made a decision that reading is really a necessity. It's a right, if you will, and we've decided that every child deserves to read. So we're making this program available. It is complete in and of itself. However, some children, particularly those struggling with the effects of dyslexia, ADHD, autism, and other pervasive developmental disorders, they may have other struggles. And if your child is having other struggles with reading, writing, spelling, math, test taking, stress, self-esteem, confidence, and a number of other issues, we have comprehensive programs that can address most, if not all, of those issues. We've been doing this for quite a while. We've been very successful. So with that context, I'm going to get right into this program. It's going to be short. This is not an extensive program. It's not a laundry list of exercises or skills or things that you could do. It's very direct and focused. This is at a very specific group. This program is aimed at a very specific group of children and teens, and that is those struggling with the effects of dyslexia, ADHD, and other pervasive developmental disorders which affect the visual and auditory processing. So children with auditory processing disorder may be candidates for this program. Children with sensory processing disorder or sensory integration disorder may be candidates for this program. Is this program going to help every child there is? No. I don't believe there's any program that's going to help every child learn to read. Some children, most children, will do well with a phonics-based program. That's why most of the programs out there are phonics-based. Okay? Because they work with 80% or 85% of the children out there. But there is a group, we found, a very specific group, that do not do well with a phonics-based approach. And this program is for that group. So, going right into this, the first thing we want to look at is visual function and auditory function. Now, basically, by the time your child is school age, if there's any question at all, you should have already had their eyes and ears checked by and I guess it's an audiologist or a vision specialist or an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, because this is about function. This is the function of the eyes, the function of the ears, to hear specific sounds and to see what is in front of him, be it something physical like an apple, or something symbolic like, let's say, the word apple. And he needs to be able to see each of those letters at a reasonable distance for reading or for looking at the blackboard. And with respect to hearing, the child needs to be able to hear the specific sounds and phonics. So we're going to proceed with the presumption that these two issues have been handled. Okay? That you've gone that far. If there's any question about your child's success, you've already looked at reading, hearing, and if the child needs maybe glasses or a hearing aid or something to that effect, that's already been taken care of. Okay, now I should throw in here something about speech, because many children who fit the criteria for dyslexia, ADHD, autism, and other pervasive developmental disorders, many of those children are late speakers, okay? Same thing with some children with reading. Occasionally, children will not be ready to read until they're about 7 years old. It doesn't matter what you do. Before that time, you're simply going to make them miserable. So I want to put those two out there, not to confuse the parents or confuse you, but to just give you a broader picture. And that is kind of the minority there. So that's why it's maybe not talked about a lot. It's not given a lot of attention. So we're going to come back to our group. Pervasive developmental disorders, dyslexia, ADD, autism, sensory integration disorder, auditory processing disorder. Many of these students will have certain things in common. They will often struggle with focus and attention. They will struggle with stress, organization, reading, writing, spelling, memorization, math facts, writing and composition, test taking, test preparation, self-motivation, self-esteem, and confidence, and a variety of social skills, maybe critical thinking, maybe for the younger kids, they might really struggle with time, telling time, or learning about money the way it's presented in school. So these are things that in our comprehensive programs, we can usually address all of that. But this program, again, is for reading. We're putting it out there because we believe that every child deserves to read. So we've already covered numbers 1 and 2. Those should be taken care of by now. So we can presume for this conversation that the child's eyes are functioning properly and they are taking in the visual environment, the photons, if you will, and they're being focused properly. They're bouncing to the receptors in the eye, and they're being transmitted to the brain. And the same thing with the ears. So the sounds are coming into the ears, they're hitting the eardrum and vibrating, and that function, the function of the environment or the sensory environment is being transmitted to the brain. So these are about function and sensing. This is sensing the environment. Now, what happens after that? We know that in any given moment, we take in about 2 million bits of information through our senses. Sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell. Yeah, good. Okay, so we take in all this information through our senses, and something interesting happens. We take that information and we squish it down. Our brain, our mind, squishes that information out, and until it gets down to something in the neighborhood of 125 bits per second. I mean, that's really significant. From 2 million to 125. And if we want to be aware of something consciously, if we want to take notice of something, it really needs to be in that 125. Now, we will take in the total experience, and it will get recorded in some fashion. But for practical purposes, for use in, let's say, education or learning, we really need to focus on that 125 bits per second. Because that's the goal. That's what we're going to remember for that test or that assignment or whatever the case may be. So how does that happen? Well, as I said, we have visual perception as a process and auditory perception as a process. So how can we affect both of those in terms of providing an outcome for reading? With respect to visual process, there are two ways to process information. One of them is what I'm going to call three-dimensional information. Three-dimensional. So when we perceive something, it may be three-dimensional information, like this marker. This marker, if we see this and learn what it is, that it's a marker, you know, in the real world, I know that it's a marker. And if I turn it upside down, it's still a marker. If I turn it on its side, it's still a marker. And if I angle it any degree, it's marker, 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 marker. Okay. So that's one world in which one process that we use for examining or processing visual information. Now there's another way, and that is relatively new. I mean, compared to processing three-dimensional information, processing the visual spatial information of our environment, thousands of years. But for a very tiny recent period, we've had to process another type of information, and that's two-dimensional information. Oops. Two-dimensional or symbolic information. And this information has to be processed very differently than three-dimensional information. And I can give you a very simple example, and that is, if you learn what this is, this symbol here, you probably would recognize that as a P. You would probably look at that and identify it as a P, especially if you're an adult. But what about this symbol? If you're a normal reading adult, you would probably identify that as a B. But do you notice that it's just a P upside down? And we often comment about how dyslexic children and sometimes other, PDD children, we notice that they're flipping letters. And for some children at an early age, they will flip letters and then it magically goes away. So if there's nothing else of consideration and a child is just flipping a few letters, I'd say don't worry about it, it's probably going to go away. But if it's in context of a bigger picture of other issues, then it's something to be concerned about. And it's speaking to a very specific way of processing visual information. And that is that in the 3D world, this and this are the same thing. In fact, this, and this are the same thing. And this is the same thing. They're all in the real world. They're all the same thing in the three-dimensional world. These are all the same thing, just different angles. In fact, you could say this. This is the same thing. But in the two-dimensional world, in the world of symbols, right, this is very different than this or this. So we need a different set of rules, regardless of how good we are, how artistic we are, how good we are at memorizing where things are and how things look in the real world. When it comes to this reading process, we need a very different skill. We need two-dimensional. We need to be able to process symbolic information two-dimensionally. All right. Now, before we actually do the exercises to improve our visual perception in the two-dimensional world, so we're going to have to switch from three-dimensional to two-dimensional processing in order to effectively and confidently and easily process this type of information that we need to do for reading. I'm going to back up a little bit, or maybe you could say jump ahead, and I'm going to jump down to number 6, focus and attention. Even though this is the last step, retaining information, I want to start by introducing some exercises for increasing focus and attention. And each day that we sit down to work on one of these exercises, each day we sit down to read, we're going to begin with a focusing and attention exercise. And they're very easy. I'm going to introduce 2 of them. There are many. I'm going to introduce just 2 of them right now that you're going to do for 5 minutes before you sit down and do any of these other steps. For 5 minutes, you're going to do these 2 exercises, probably about 3 minutes each. Okay. So, without going into a long explanation, I'm going to give you these 2 exercises. I'm going to ask that you take it on faith that they work. For most children, these exercises will increase focus and attention and allow us to do these other 3 steps here more effectively, more efficiently, in less time, and get better results. Okay. So the first exercise is kind of a left brain, right brain exercise, and it's going to help with our focus and attention. It's been around for a long time in various forms, and the way I'm going to ask you to do this is to, with your child, as a mirror, facing each other, you're going to put your hands up and raise one knee and cross and touch your knee with the palm of your hand, of your opposite hand. Cross and touch your knee with the palm of your hand. Cross, 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 cross. And just try this in place for a little bit with your child. Cross, 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 cross. Good, good. Now the next step, what I'd like to do is if once your child's a little bit comfortable with that, I want to make it a little bit more difficult and have the child take 10 to 12 steps forward while you're going backward. Again, you're going to be his mirror for a while here, setting the pace, breathing in, breathing out, relaxed and focused, and just providing a mirror. So walking forward, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 10 or 12, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. All right. The next thing I'm going to ask you to do, once you've practiced that for maybe a day or 2, maybe a week, depending upon the child and the age of the child, but when the child feels comfortable at that level with you mirroring him, so you're standing here, the child is standing here, okay? And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Good, 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 good. Okay, the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is to continue to stand in front of the child. And so in terms of the camera view, I'll be the adult. The child is facing me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my hand, or maybe some kind of a target, you know, a brightly colored block or something simple, but your hand is fine. And I'm going to ask the child to focus on my hand, to focus on my hand. And as we go forward or backward, 1, he's going to do the crosswalks. So as we move, he's going to do the crosswalks and crossing, crossing, but his eyes are going to be focused up here, not just wandering around. We're going to ask him to continue with this left brain, right brain exercise while he's focusing on the palm of my hand, right? Or on some object, some simple object like a block. I may draw his attention to it. Focus, 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 as he's crossing, crossing, crossing. 10 or 12 steps up, 10 or 12 steps back. Okay? So notice that I held it up to my right, which would be having him look up to his left. Right? His head is straight, his chin is level. He's looking with his eyes up to the left so he can see this block. Focus, 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 cross, 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 cross. And then step 2, focus up to the right. And I'm holding the block maybe 2 feet, 3 feet in front of him, or my hand. And again, he's going to focus, cross, 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 back, cross, 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 cross. Good? All right. The next step, after we've mastered that, and again, I'm talking about, let's say 5 minutes a day, or 3 minutes twice a day, doing our crossing exercises. Okay? The next step is to be able to get rid of the object, focus on my hand, and count silently forward and backward up to 10 or 12, and then back down to 0. So he'll count to himself 1, 2, 3, 4, with each step. 5, 6, 7, 8, and then when he gets to the top, 10, he'll be 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Same thing. 1, well, you'll be going backwards, right? So he'll be going forwards in the beginning. It'll be 1, 2, focusing on the hand. And then counting backwards, 10, 9. Okay? So we're forcing him to use different parts of his brain at the same time. And when I say forcing, I mean in a very gentle kind of, natural way. We never want to see stress or struggle. If once you see stress or struggle, back up. We want to operate on the basis of 90% success, 10% challenge. 90% success, 10% challenge. Okay. So that's where we want to get to with our focusing exercise. There's one more thing we can do with a child, and this one, it's easy, it can be fun, but it can also get out of hand. So you want to preface this with the child that the object is to stay focused, 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 and relaxed. And we call this balloon juggling. It's kind of a precursor to more advanced juggling. And left, right, left, right, left, right. Counting 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There you go. One of the things that we want to get away from is singing the alphabet. Singing the alphabet. Okay. So that's another fun one for younger kids to practice. One last exercise for very young kids to do with their parents. It's kind of fun. You can do this sitting or standing. Most folks do it sitting. And we call it, it's just peas porridge hot. And you clap your legs together, and then the parent will cross over and hit the other child's hand, and then back, and then down, and then together, cross, together, down. 1, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, cross, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? When you feel comfortable doing that a few times with sitting face to face with your child, then you can add the rhyme. Peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold, peas porridge in the pot, 9 days old. Some like it hot, some like it cold, some like it in the pot, 9 days old. Start off slower, leading the child across, so you're coming to them rather than having them come to you. You will notice that a lot of children, especially in this PDD group, they're going to want to, when you come towards them with your right hand, they're going to want to match you with their left hand rather than crossing over that midline, that center midline. They're going to come with the same hand or the opposite hand. And same thing, when you do this, they're going to come with their opposite hand rather than coming across. So you're going to have to be patient, maybe lead them on a little bit, and then let them take more of the crossing action. Peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold, peas porridge in the pot, 9 days old. Again, we want 3 to 5 minutes before we sit down to do any of the other exercises. We want to be relaxed and focused for this work. If the child is stressed or anxious, you're going to need to do something else. Look into more of our comprehensive stress reduction programs or whatever that may be. But it's really critical that you have some level of focus and kind of a relaxed being when you're sitting down to do this. It's critical for that visual processing to get a good result. Okay, so what we're after is results, not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Okay, so very good. Now, do you notice that this visual and auditory integration is also left brain, right brain? So the reason I'm starting off with number 6 is because it's going to have a ripple effect right from the very beginning and on through the end to give us that good result of retention. Okay,